Thank you, Lexi. Hi, everybody. Uh, Welcome. When Sarah and Lexi asked me to do this, I said I would be delighted. And uh, understand that this is I've been teaching the practice of yoga for over 40 years. Meditation is very much a part of that practice. And however many people that we have here today, we have that many different understandings and interpretations and mindsets about what meditation really is. What my interest is today, we have the next 28, 29 minutes together. I'd like to share with you what my current understanding of this practice that we refer to as meditation consists of. And I will do that with the following sort of framework. Yoga consists of a number of components. And Shakespeare 500 years ago, we're all somewhat familiar, some of you very familiar, some of you superficially, but you all know who Shakespeare was and all of the writing that was done 400 or 500 years ago. There was a gentleman by the name of Patanjali, and it may have been a group of people, not unlike the people that contributed to Shakespeare's work, that wrote 3 treatises 2,500 years ago. And the first treatise that was written was on grammar for clarity of speech, interestingly. The second treatise that was written was on medicine and health for the health of the body. The third treatise that was written 2,500 years ago, the Yoga Sutras, was written for the calming of the mind. Why do I share that with you? Because that's where really the practice of meditation has been around for clearly at least 2,500 years now. And the practice of meditation, the calming of the mind, takes on a lot of different connotations for people. So that's where we are today with this understanding that the practice of yoga, Atta Yoga Anushasanam, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. What is that? That's in Sanskrit 2,500 years ago. Now begins the practice of yoga, and yoga is to calm the mind. The nature of the mind is, and I'm just going to talk for another minute, and then I'm going to hopefully share with you the next 15 minutes after that a very practical presentation that we can all do together, that you can take with you. Shasta and I were talking the other day. Shasta said, David, I've signed up for this meditation on Wednesday at 1:30 for a half hour with you. I have so much going on in my life and a lot of demands being made on my time. I get up at 5:30 every morning and I work out, and I just don't have time to do a regular practice of meditation. The last thing, friends, that I want to do is to give you something that's going to impose that much more of a requirement on your time. So rather than setting aside 5 minutes, 25 minutes, a half an hour for meditation each day, what I'm going to try to do with you is to share with you what's been shared with me with teachers through the years of a very practical aspect of meditation. And that is to be cognizant and aware, bring your mind's eye and attention to what is here, what is right now. So wherever you are, I'm sitting in a chair right now. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to ask each of you to stand up. And I'm going to ask you to have your chair in front of you. I'm going to be cut off from the camera a little bit, but you get the idea. If all of us, I want to make sure that we have a proper balance. I'd like each of you to feel comfortable with, again, I've never taught a yoga class with work clothes on like this, and so bear with me. I have shoes and socks on. I'm assuming that each of you have your work clothes on right now. And if we could take our attention to that part of the body in contact with Mother Earth. So take your feet where they are right now. Take your feet hip width apart. Balance the weight up over the arches of your feet. have your hands on the top of your chair as you see me doing here. Bend your knees slightly and notice that the sole skin of your feet in contact with Mother Earth, as soon as you flex your knees, as soon as you bend your knees slightly, it slightly shifts your attention on the soles of the feet. Now, from there, your frontal hip bones. Put your fingertips on the frontal hip bones, lift the frontal hip bones up. The knees are slightly bent. The weight, observe, pierce your intelligence into the weight distribution over the heels. The metatarsal, that's the widest portion of the underside of the foot. Shift your weight to the metatarsal. Big toe mound of flesh between your first and second toe, right foot, left foot. Bring the weight back into the heels. Now, with the knees slightly flexed, rather than banging the knees back, friends, into full extension, I'm going to ask each of you to move with much more refinement. I'm going to ask you to take the upper inner kneecap chip, the lower outer, that's the little toe side of the lower kneecap, and in even measure, engage, bring to life the upper inner kneecap chip near the lower thigh, the lower outer kneecap chip, little toe side of the kneecap, and bring those knees into full extension by activating your quadriceps, lifting your quadriceps up. Good. Tailbone, middle of the tailbone moves forward. Forward is to the screen in front of you. Take your thighs back. As you take your thighs back and your tailbone forward, let there be an internal communication taking place. Let the mind's eye, not the visual eye in the head, but the mind's eye come, bring that attention and awareness to that dance between the thighs moving back, the engagement of the quad, of the thigh muscles, those strong workhorse muscles up off of the knees, to bring the weight more up over the arches of the feet. Good. Bring the arms out to the side. Turn your palms to face the screen. If you turn the palm, notice that you can turn the palm from the wrist, you can turn the palm from the upper arm. I'm asking you to turn the palm from the upper arm band. So if the palm faces the side thigh, and you turn the palm to face the screen, notice that as you do that more with the upper arm band rolling from inside out, it cues, it informs the deltoid, that's the shoulder cap, from inside out. Take the armpit skin from back to front, and you start to feel the engagement of the shoulder blades. Take them down your back. So there's a coiling open of the front chest. There's a release of the skin and the flesh from the back chest toward the back waistline. Good. So what we're really doing here is we're allowing the rib cage. We're giving more and more room for the rib cage to open fully, to allow the lungs, to allow the heart to have its space, its openness, its freedom. Wonderful. From there, let's sit back in the chair a moment. I'm going to ask each of you to sit in such a position where the sit bones are at the seat of the chair and the back of your thigh is off the front seat of the chair. So these chairs that we sit in all day, understand that most of us will, left to our own devices, especially in the course of a long workday, we begin to slouch. So let's go ahead and do that. The slouching, notice that as it's very un-yogic-like, that the chest itself collapses. The heart, the lungs have no space. So rather than that, again, can we take the frontal hip bones and lift them up? Can we adjust the sit bones? That's the lower portion of the pelvis. There's two bony protrusions. In fact, go ahead and sit on your hands. Open the hands up, lean to one side. Go ahead and sit on your hands a moment. Just for a second, take this position and move the buttocks around a little bit in the hands, and you'll feel two bony protrusions. Draw the buttock skin and flesh back and away so that you're sitting more and more on the center of those sit bones. That's the base of the pelvis. The pelvis is like the pelvis is a bowl. If you think of it as full of fluid, rather than spilling toward the thigh, or dropping back behind us, see if you could sit up atop those sit bones. Good. From there, take the arms out to the side. Again, turn the palms to face the sky. From there, feel those shoulder blades release back and down. Wonderful. Coil open the front chest, broaden from the inner collarbone to the outer collarbone. Let the back of the hand rest on your mid-thigh. Good. Head atop the torso, torso atop the hips. So the architecture of the pose becomes quite simple. The heels now, the arches of the feet are underneath the knees. The knees are hip width apart. Wonderful. From there, sit straight and tall. Close the eyes. Levelize the chin. The chin is level with the floor. The tongue rests in the lower palate. Soften the bridge of the nose. Begin with the outer eyes closed, not hardening, but a softening of the eyes. Bring your attention more and more to the normal breathing cycle, the channeling of the breath. Just quietly observe with no change whatsoever, simply quietly observing. Inhalation, exhalation. The Sanskrit terms paraka rashaka, the alternation of inhalation, exhalation, is taking place in this sitting position. Good. Every inhalation with eyes closed, tongue resting in the lower palate, roll those shoulder tips back and down. Release where you like to get a massage in your upper back. Release that skin away from the neckline. Go on blossoming, open the chest. Wonderful. Breathing freely. Each inhalation, each paraka in yoga breathing is done after a full exhalation. So go ahead and exhale. Good. Long, slow, steady inhalation. Through the center of each nostril, mouth is closed. Cross over to the exhalation. Don't let my words get in the way. It's simply a breathing cycle. Good. And again, go right ahead with your own breathing, observing, is the weight distributed evenly among on that right sit bone, left sit bone, right heel, left heel. Great. Opening those eyes. Wonderful. Standing back up. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to share with you some of these techniques, and then we're going to have about a 5-minute at the end of a question and answer. But right now, again, I'd like to ask you to stand straight and tall. I'd like you this time to have your feet, rather than hip width apart, go ahead and join your feet and legs. See that you have your balance. The fingertips on the back of the chair is just fine. You may have a desk right next to you. I do here. I'm going to ask you to simply take your right leg up over the chair back and place the foot on the seat of the chair. Left hand is still on the chair. Good. Everybody, take your right hand to your outer right hip. I'm going to go ahead and mirror you, so I'll be on the other side. Take your right hand to your outer hip. Take your left hand to your outer right knee. Sit straight and tall and twist. Good. Come back to center. Let's do the other side. Take your left leg up over, place the foot on the seat of the chair. Have your knee in line with the hip, not out to the side. Good. This time the right hand goes out over that left knee. The left hand is back on the hip. Sit straight, stand straight and tall. Open the chest and twist. Right to left. Breathing freely. Good. Come back to center. Stand with your feet and legs joined. Take the arms out to the side. Turn the palms away from the side chest. Inhale the arms up over the head. This is a pose called Urdhva Hastasana, upward hand pose. Exhaling, turn the hands out. Good. I'm going to ask you to just repeat that cycle a few times with the arms extending fully. Good. Turn the palms out and back down. Wonderful. And one more time. Inhaling the arms up. Exhaling the arms down. Good. Take your chair, move the chair forward, place your hands on the top of the chair, as you see me doing, walk back and take this modification of what we call in yoga the downward facing dog pose. Breathing freely, ears come between the upper arms, arms fully extended, legs fully extended, breathing freely. Good, come back up. Sitting back in the chair. Again, friends, find the sit bones evenly planted on the seat of the chair. See that that's true for you, that you're not on the front edge of those sit bones, the ischius bones. It's the base of the pelvis. So we're really balancing that pelvic bowl in such a way where from a firm, stable base, that's at the soles of the feet, the sit bones on the seat of the chair, the spine ascends. The mind descends and settles in the center of the chest, the heart center where the true self resides. That's rather poetic. That's from B.K.S. Iyengar. My teacher through the years, he passed away in his late 90s a few years ago. He's written the definitive text on yoga that we can talk about another time. Breathing freely. This time, take your left hand back behind you. Take your right hand to the outer left knee. Now you're sitting, but it's still a twisting action. Rather than cranking, working hard in a twist, lift that chest, open the chest, and twist right to left. Gaze up and out over that left shoulder, breathing freely. Good, come back to center. I'm moving you rather quickly. We're looking to find some elasticity in the intercostal muscles of the rib cage. Good, take your right hand back behind your right hip. Take your left hand to the outer right knee. Sit straight and tall, open that chest, roll those shoulder tips back and gaze up and out over that right shoulder, breathing freely. Notice the imbalances that come. Is it the right side of my chest that's collapsed? Is it the left side of my chest that I can lift? Open it. Inhale, open the chest. Exhale, grow the spine. Inhale, open the chest. Exhale, grow the spine. Good. Come back to center. So what are we doing? We're right here at our workspace. We may just take a couple minutes after an email, after a long phone call, and finding these poses that we can do right at our desk. Great. Sit straight and tall. I'm going to reach back here just for a moment. If you look here 1 second, I'm going to ask each of you to envision, what am I doing? I'm holding up a water jug. We're all familiar with these. And there's an opening to this water jug, which is down here. And then I put a couple rubber bands here horizontally and here. Now, this is to represent the lung fibers, the lungs themselves. So this point here, what I'm going to ask each of you to do, eyes open right now. See that you have those sit bones in a position, firm, stable base where the pelvic bowl is balanced front to back, right to left. Great. That the arms, these organs of action, or arms, hands are opening fully. Good. To allow that chest to open. The armpit chest is the part of the chest closest to the armpit. Lift that, coil open the chest, and release. If you take your hands back to your seventh cervical, that is the vertebrae that protrudes for most of us back there slightly. That seventh cervical, take your hands to either side, strong fingers and thumbs. You'll feel where we like to get a nice massage. Sometimes, especially in the course of a work day, where the arms are always forward of the chest, this hardens, tightens. Release with your strength that skin and flesh back and down, that skin and flesh back and down. Good. Lengthen the cords at the back of the neck and look down toward your knees and go on releasing the sides of the neck. Beautiful. You got it. Sitting straight and tall. Rest again the back of the hands on the middle of your thighs, breathing freely. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do this time. This is the second time around in a sitting pranayama, which is a sitting breathing cycle. This is the lung tissue. So I'm going to ask you to exhale fully. Then I'm going to ask you to inhale from this center point between the navel and the pubic bone, at the center of the pelvic bone. It is at the center of the pelvis. It's called the hara in the martial arts. It's our center. It's our center of gravity. The inhalation starts there, and the air comes up through the inner lining of the lungs, circumferentially from base to top, cross over to the exhalation. Then I'm going to ask you to inhale up to this horizontal point, which is at the base of the rib cage. Then I'm going to ask you to inhale again, and inhale, cross over to the exhalation. This is called Viloma Pranayama. It's a channeling, it's a practice of the channeling of the breath. Sit straight and tall, roll those shoulder tips back and down. Close the eyes from top to bottom. Soften and release the tongue and jaw. Remember that seventh cervical space. Release that skin and flesh away from the seventh cervical. Resting the back of the hands on the center of the thighs. Broaden from the inner collarbone to the outer collarbone. Begin to bring, without a collapsed chest, an open chest, begin to bring your gaze with eyes closed. So it's an internal adjustment. Lengthen the cords at the back of the neck and look down toward your chest. Breathing freely. Good. Completely exhale. From that point between your navel and your pubic bone, begin the inhalation. Pause. Inhalation. Pause. Inhalation. Cross over to the exhalation, exhaling freely. Good. Breathing freely now. Raise the head, open the eyes. So we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to really try not to confuse you. If you look at me 1 second, here's what I'm asking of you. Rather than the head here, the head, the cords at the back of the neck lengthen. You'll see from this position, I exhale completely, and then I inhale. Where that rubber band was, I stop at the base of the rib cage. Hold the inhalation. Inhale more. Hold the inhalation at the center of the breast line. Inhale more up into that upper behind the collarbone, way high up, and then cross over to the exhalation. Your turn. Softly close the eyes. Bring the gaze down toward the center of the chest without dropping the chest. Wonderful. Breathing freely. Don't let my words get in your way. Bring your mind's attention to that point behind your navel, above the pubic bone. So you're at the center of that pelvic bowl again. The bowl is balanced front to back, side to side. The side rib cage is openly lifting. Good. Exhale completely. Begin your inhalation. Let that inhalation come up the inner lining of the lungs to the base of the rib cage. Pause. Inhale more. To the center of the breast line. Pause. Inhale more. Exhaling completely. Good. Raising the chin, opening the eyes. So that's Viloma 1. Viloma 2 is exactly the same thing, only in reverse. It looks something like this. I'm going to ask you to inhale completely and then exhale down to this first horizontal line, imaginary line right at the center of the breast line, and then exhale down to the base of the rib cage, and then exhaling completely. It looks something like this. Full inhalation, exhale, pause, exhale, pause, exhale. Good. Sit straight and tall. Levelize the chin. Close the eyes from top to bottom. Bring the gaze down toward the center of the chest, even though the chest itself is lifting, opening. Release the shoulder from the back shoulder to the back elbow to allow that chest to remain open and lifted. Good. Bring your attention to that hara, the center of your low down in your pelvic bowl. Exhale completely. Begin the inhalation all the way, steady, long, slow, steady inhalation all the way to the top. And then when you're ready, cross over and come down to that breastline area on the exhalation and pause. Exhale to the base of the rib cage and pause. Exhale completely. Breathing freely. Good. And sitting up. Let's stand back up for a moment. All right. I've thrown a lot at you, but if we stand here just for a moment, know that that breathing cycle, again, I have the camera on me, and you can see that what I'm getting at here, just for the next few seconds, is each of us in a standing position. Join the feet and legs again. Good. So whether I do this as a standing twist pose, any sort of, you can do this with the desk right next to you, twisting one way or the other, whether you want to take your leg up to the side in the course of a workday and get a twist going this way with both legs extending, anything of that nature. The good news there is that rather than having this as a infringement on your time, incorporate this into the workday. Just take a couple minutes. How are we doing, Lexi?
You're good, you're good.
The best way, the best place to do pranayama, the channeling of the breath, is any place. The best time to do it is any time. So if you're preparing a meal for your kids, why not begin a bit of this Viloma pranayama practice? Viloma is one of the introductory channeling of the breath practices, and it is a wonderful way to keep the health and vitality of the body and a calming of the mind. And friends, the reason that I have a daughter-in-law right now. She's in the midst of, I was relating to a friend earlier this morning that she's in the midst of a 6-day silent meditation. Now, this is a woman who is a wife and a mother to 3 kids and has job responsibilities and all of that. And so where am I going with that? Meditation to her, she's in a training for meditation. It takes on a very different connotation. What I've shared with you today is the practice of, is this very beginning practice of pranayama, which we can take anywhere, do anywhere, with a couple simple asanas, a couple simple postures of twisting and opening this chest in a way that can really be beneficial for us going forward. And so I told Lexi that I wanted to do a little bit of Q&A. Lexi, can we do a little bit of Q&A?
Absolutely. So that's something I wanted to say. If you do have a Q&A, simply, I believe you can just hit your raise hand button, and then I can get you there, and then we can unmute you. So to kind of start off, I actually have a 2-part question for you, David. So what do you love most about meditation and yoga? And then the second part is, for all the attendees that we have here today, or if you're watching the recorded version, what are like 1 or 2 takeaways that you would like them to have?
I gave the book Light on Yoga, he wrote in 1966, and we sponsored him years ago when he taught here, and I asked him to sign the book for me. And I thought he would give me something very poetic and flowery, and he wrote in the back of the book, and I cherish it to this day, David, yoga, he said, life is a struggle. So struggle in your practice of yoga. Lexi, rather than some people say, well, meditation, it doesn't allow the storm to overtake us. Well, in this life, there's storms that come all the time. Can we dance in the storm? My takeaway from yoga is the joy that comes from the practice itself. And if we're fortunate enough, each of us as we get older, are we experiencing storms in our life and struggles in our life and upheavals? Absolutely. And it can't be avoided, but can we bring some joy and some hope to it? I see all of us. I don't know if any of you are a football fan, but you'll see that J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback in Michigan, that what is he doing? He's practicing meditation. He's the where am I going with that? Well, this practice of yoga, Lexi, is 2,500 years ago. Ashtanga yoga is the 8 limbs of yoga, and it's about the asanas, the physical postures that we practice. Pranayama is one of the 8 limbs of yoga. That's a channeling of the breath that we played with a bit today. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Dharana is concentration. Dhyana is, in one word, synonym in our language is meditation. So dharana is meditation is very much a part of the yoga model of 2,500 years ago. Dean Vanderplas did a beautiful job the other day, and if any of you, a shout out to Dean's son Ben, who was instrumental in bringing a victory to the Virginia basketball team over Michigan's the other day. And Dean talked about this idea of really concentrating on the inside of the center of the back rim of the basket when you're going out for a basketball shot. Well, that's dharana, that's concentration. It's an aspect of the practice of yoga. Dhyana, meditation, is taking that single point attention, whether it's in the soles of the feet, whether it's in the center of your pelvis, as we're focusing on today, whether it's the opening of the lungs evenly. That dispersion, that spreading, that integration of concentration at different spots is the definition of meditation. And meditation, does it calm the mind? The mind, each of us, what's the nature of the mind? The mind lives in the past, the regret that we've had. We get stuck in all of what's already happened. Of course, we don't have any control over that. The mind flies to the future and the anxiety, that anticipation of what's coming next. So this idea of having the mind centered in the present is a very challenging practice. And so, to answer your question, I love that challenge. It's a practice that I immediately said yes to you and Sarah because it's something that I love, and this practice is something that I'll have till my dying day, and each of us do have that. And there's only 1 or 2 responses every time we roll out the mat, every time that we begin a practice. If it's an hour and a half practice, if it's a 4-minute practice, we come away with, oh, woe is me, look what I cannot do, or thank God for what I can do. Let us go to that side. Let's have hope there.
Absolutely. I believe we only have time for probably 1 question, and I saw that Jen was the first one to hop in for that. So, but before I go to Jen, to your question, I want to thank you, David, for being here and for doing this meditation. So I can't unmute you all at the same time, but if everyone where you are can give a virtual clap, or where you are, give a clap to David and to thank you for rounding off our final 2022 meditation moment. And we are hoping to have more within the new here. So
Thank you, Lexi.
absolutely. Thank you, sir. So I see, Jen, your question went away. So Melissa, I'm going to unmute you. And you should be good to go, Melissa.
Yes, thank you. Super quick question. Is this the best way to sit ergonomically throughout the workday, David, at the edge of the seat on our sit bones? Because I toggle between the front of the chair and the back of the chair. Am I supposed to have the back of the chair against me all day for good ergonomics, or is it better to sit here at the front?
You and I have both heard the throwaway phrase of sitting is the new smoking, right?
Yes, yes.
Any time that we can get away from sitting and standing is probably better. But even whether we're standing or whether we're sitting, that again, Melissa, and you have an active practice of yoga, any balance that we can find in our sitting, rather than the slumping, rather than always leaning to one side. Every time we, if we're using a headset, things of that nature, which challenges the balance. Anything that we can do to find that balance.
Thank you.
Well, if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the Strive team and we will pass those messages along and we will get back to you on those. So again, thank you everyone for attending last meditation moment session. David, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Lexi.
Thank you.